Have you ever had a pattern that you really liked the shape of and the fit of and decided, I just want to lower this neckline? I'm just going to go in and draw it on the pattern and then cut it out. And then when you finish the garment, you realize, oh God, there's all kinds of crazy gaping. You could see right down my shirt. I'm going to show you in this video how to adjust your pattern so that you can avoid these mistakes in the future. Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to walk you through the first principle of contouring. Today we're just going to look at contouring the neckline and how it affects your pattern when you cut away to make a lower or wider neckline when you're flat patterning. Now, if you've ever had the experience, as I outlined in the beginning of this video, where you have a great fitting pattern and you decide that you want to lower the neckline, and you just go ahead and you cut out a shape that you want. But when you finish the garment, you realize that you have these gaping spaces where either it's too big right here, or it's too wide right here, or say you want to lower an armhole and now suddenly the armhole has gaping spaces right in here. This is where the contouring principle comes in handy when you are pattern making. Now, this principle has many different steps to it, but I'm just going to cover the neckline today, and I'll go over other principles of it in further videos. So what is contouring? Contouring is when you are taking your basic sloper block, and when you cut away certain areas of it, you make up for the amount of hollow that is in the body. Now, if you're looking at a dress form like this, or if you're looking at even just your own body, you have lots of angles and dips and ridges and bumps. These spaces, you need to account for them if you're going to be cutting fabric away. Think about when you are wearing a turtleneck. You have full coverage from your shoulders down to your bust. So the space between here and there is being completely covered up by the fabric. So there's tension that is holding the fabric across the highest part of your bust and the highest part of your shoulder. So the space in between is covered up. But if you remove the fabric in this section and you want to cut away your neckline, you are now having to account for this space. To get a further illustration of how this works, if you take a ruler and you put it in a straight line coming from the bust to the neck, you can see there's space underneath where the ruler sits. You are not a straight line from your neck to your bust line. The same thing with your shoulders. If your shoulders come out straight like this, if you put it from the upper edge of the shoulder to the neck, there's a tiny little bit of space right in here. So if you were to cut a neckline away, you have to account for this little tiny bit of space. The same thing from here to here. If you had fabric that was covering from here to here, it can do a good job of covering any kind of indentations or bumps or ridges that you have along this part of your body. But as soon as you start cutting stuff away, you're going to have gaping space. So what we do is that we account for the different areas of the body onto our pattern so that if we are going to be cutting it away, we know how much to adjust the pattern to account for this space. Now, a working sloper pattern will have all of these contoured areas outlined in them. So this is a little bit more advanced than what I'm going to cover in today's video, but this is an example of a contoured pattern. All of these different highlighted areas indicate areas that would have to be eliminated if I were to cut my pattern to that section. So if I was cutting a neckline from here down, anytime I pass one of these highlighted areas, I need to eliminate that amount of space. If I was cutting my armhole deeper like this, I'd have to account for this highlighted area and the side highlighted area. If I was making a strapless plunging dress, so if I drew my line up and around and down, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas that I'd have to account for. What we're going to focus on today is this one right here, just this first line. So this is going to affect a deep neckline. We might even get a little bit into doing this one in here, depending on how far down you make your neckline. So we're gonna play with adjusting the shoulder, which is gonna account for this little bit in here, and adjusting the neck, which is this one right here. Now this measurement that is drawn on this pattern, this is an older sloper block for my body type. This was specifically drafted to fit me. These individual highlighted areas can be measured on your body. The difference that you need to have, so this, for this first one, this amount, it's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe about 3/8 of an inch for this particular section. But that is found by taking your ruler and going from the neckline to the bust. Now, if you look at this from, I'm going to kind of turn this to the side, from neckline to the fullest part of the bust, this amount of space that is right in between the ruler and the body. So you can take your ruler, put it up against the neck to the fullest part of the bust, then take a second ruler and measure the amount of space between the body and the ruler. In this case, it's 3/8 of an inch. You can also do this on yourself. So if you have an assistant, you know, to read your ruler, if you can't see it yourself, you can stand up straight, hold the ruler against your neck, base of your neck, and your bust, and make note of the space between the ruler and you. So again, this is going to differ from body to body. If you like to wear push-up bras and you've got a little bit more swell here, that space might not be as much. If you have a low set chest or you have a very protruding collarbone, this measurement might differ. So you want to check it against your own body. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use 3/8 of an inch since that is what was going on here and what I have on this pattern. So for our next bit of this, we are going to play around with a sloper pattern. So if you want to do some of these along with me, you need to make a copy of your original pattern. Do not ever cut into your basic master sloper pattern. Always make a copy of it before you go playing around with these things. All right, so we have a new copy of our sloper pattern. Now the things that you want to keep in mind on this pattern is you need to know where the apex of the bust is. Now, if you had a traditional commercial pattern of a single darted sloper, you may not have the dart going all the way to the fullest part of the bust. They might have it marked for you. Usually with a sloper pattern, you have the dart going all the way to the apex, and then you shorten it a little bit when you go to do the final garment so that you don't end up with pointy boob effect. So I have my slopers automatically go to the apex, and then whenever I make them up in muslin, I shorten the dart a little bit. I also have the center notch of the shoulder marked and the armhole notch marked in. Now, we are going to be making this look like this one, but we're going to do it in step-by-step fashion. The first thing that we need to make note of is this circular shape right here. This represents the entirety of a single one of your breasts. So what you want to look for is the distance from the fullest part or the bust point of your breast to where it comes back into your body. We're looking at the swell of the breast. So this is the distance from here to here. So I'm showing it to you on a mannequin, but you can take this measurement on yourself as well. So you want to place a measuring tape at the bust point and then measure down to underneath your bust. So where the empire line would be. So for the bust swell of this particular pattern, I'm going to use 3.5 inches. So what you want to do is to take that measurement. This is the radius of your circle. So you can measure out from your apex 3.5 inches going all the way around. All right. Next, I want you to grab a ruler and another colored marker. I'm going to do this in a different color so that I'm always aware whenever I use this pattern in the future that I need to take account for those sections. I'm going to use this blue highlighter. So we're going to draw a line from the mid-neck, so about halfway between the top and bottom of this neckline, and connect it to the apex. Just like that. Now what we want to do is take that 3/8 of an inch measurement. So this is what we had measured when we put the ruler up against the dress form and measured the distance between the ruler and the body. We need to measure 3/8 of an inch away along this top edge of that circle. So let's zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to mark 3/8 of an inch like that. Then we're going to connect this line to the bust point. So now we have a little V shape. Then we're going to connect the rest of this to the top of that spot where it meets the neck. Then color it in. So this is our first contour line. This is what we are going to use if we decide to lower the neckline of this pattern from about here to about here. As soon as we start getting below the swell point of the breasts, we have an extra area of fullness that we'd have to consider. We are also going to account for the dip in the shoulder. So this is another contoured area right up here. You can get this measurement by placing your ruler across from the tip of your shoulder at the neck to the tip of your shoulder at your arm, and see how much of a difference you have between that space right in the middle. So that's right in between, like in this area over here. So I want to take in a 1/2 inch from the shoulder if I were to cut this pattern off right here. So let's mark this in. So right in here. And we're going to draw a line out to that point on each side. So where this can be important is if I decide to make like a really narrow strap, like a tank top or a halter top, and I want to bring that strap in so that it sits by the middle of my shoulder, I have to shorten the strap by a 1/2 inch at the shoulder in order for it to fit correctly. You would repeat the same exact contoured piece on the back pattern as well, right along the shoulder, so that they match up. So now let's actually use this pattern. What I would do if I were to actually go in and make this into a functional pattern, I would make a copy of this again and transfer in all of these contoured areas. If you want to make this super easy to work with, you can go in and use an awl and punch holes at the points of all these contoured areas so that you can just mark them with a pencil when you go to make a copy of the pattern. Since I'm not actually going to be making a pattern from this, this is just for this video, I'm going to mark it directly onto this. So let's design a new neckline. So say I want to bring in my neckline halfway between the middle of the shoulder and the base of the neck. So let's come on in here, and I want to do like a low V-neck. So we'll come in like this. Now I'm going to cut this piece off of my pattern. Now you'll see we have a big section here where this area is highlighted. So what I'm going to do is cut the highlighted area off. And that is going to help fit the shoulder closer because I've come away from the base of the neck. So now I know that this is going to fit closer to my body than this original pattern would have. So I'm taking in a little bit of space right here. Now we need to eliminate this bit right in here. So if you were looking at my original intro video and I had all of that gapiness happening and my instinct was to go in and pinch out a dart, this would be the amount that that dart would need to be taken in. So we don't want to actually sew a dart into this, but we do want to transfer this fullness of where this opening would be for a dart to the big dart down here. Now what we're going to do is we are going to cut a line starting from here, cut to this apex but not through it. Like that. And what we do is we are going to overlap our pattern so that we eliminate out that highlighted edge where the neckline shape is. Now by transferring this, you can see when I move this, my dart becomes slightly bigger. And that is intentional. We want that to happen. We are transferring the length here to this dart. Now you can't just have this as a full pattern piece. If this had paper here and you tried to swing this in without having this cut edge open, you were going to end up with a bubble in your pattern. It's going to do something like this. So you have to have the dart legs cut out so that this transfer works. So I'm going to overlap this highlighted area and tape it back in. Now you might be thinking, but I still see highlighted areas here. That's fine because this area has fabric that is going to be covering it, so we don't have to worry about the hollow of the neck right here. We're only worrying about where it passes, where we've cut the neck away. So now I have to true up this line. So I can just bring it down like this to match. So we'll trim that away. So now this neckline is going to sit nice and flush against the body without any gaping. And it's going to fit closer at the shoulder because we've accounted for where this cuts away. So that is how you would use your contoured line for the neckline. This is effective for any kind of neckline shape. Say I wanted to go in now and do an even lower neckline. Let's say I wanted to bring this out further and have a line come in over this bust area. So let's draw it from here, come down like that. Now I'm going to cut this out. So now I'm going to cut the rest of this blue off. And now I still have blue remaining here. So I'd have to cut this section to the apex and overlap it so that I no longer have the blue. So now this neckline is going to fit closer. I've transferred a little bit more. See how it's still making that dart nice and wide, but I've eliminated out that section. All right, so now I have a very shapely, close-fitting neckline. So this will sew up like this. You can see there's the shape of my bodice. Now, looking at my original pattern, I'm going to show you how to work with this one as well, since we're doing necklines. This one accounts for the space in between the breasts. So this distance on this pattern is about 3/4 of an inch. And if you want to get that on your dress form, you're going to place a ruler across the bust and then measure how far from the bottom of the ruler to where you hit the body. Now, if you're very full-breasted, if you really want to get a lot of shaping between your breasts, that distance might be pretty big. On me, it's about 2 inches. So if I wanted to have conforming cups, I need to eliminate 2 inches of space between here and here. If I wanted to make this come way below, like plunging V, I have to shorten this front section so that I eliminate out the spacing and gaping that's going to happen. So we're going to contour this section a little bit so that it makes that line, that distance from here to here, even shorter. So with this, we're going to draw a line straight across from center front to the apex. And then we're going to have space above that line and below that line. So here, I've already got some of this cut away. That's okay. I'm going to do about, since this was for my body, I'm going to make this about 3/4 of an inch this way and this way, since I had a big space. So if I wanted to shorten down this neckline, so let's bring it from here, way down here, and I cut all of this away, I now have to eliminate this highlighted space. So I can clip to the apex again, and it's still going to transfer to this dart. So let's swing it down. It's going to come down. I'm going to overlap it. Now you'll see I have kind of a funky shape here, so I have to true that up. So let's bring it to there. All right, so it still fits the same way. It still makes a fitted bodice shape, but now we've accounted for cutting all of that away. So there's our shape. So this shortens up real fast and then comes down into the middle. So that is how you would make a plunging V-neck using the contoured guideline. And it's okay to have that enormous giant dart. So to illustrate this in practice, I have made a version of my currently fitting bodice sloper. As you saw in my previous video, I am asymmetrical, so I have to have a full version of my bodice mocked up in a pattern in order for me to adjust it. So I've gone in and added the 3 contoured areas that we've talked about so far. The 3/8 of an inch here. I have about 1.5 inches of space here, so I took this measurement on me, so measuring between my the fullest parts of my bust to the middle of where my rib cage is. I've also drawn in the bust swell, and I took this measurement on me as well, so this is about 4.5 inches. And then I also did the 1/2 inch of space that I would need for my shoulder alteration. So what I'm going to do is make a low plunging neckline design, and then I will sew up a mock-up of it to show you how it fits. And I'm going to make the adjustments with all of these contoured lines. So to start off, let's make this really deep. So let's come down to here. And I'm going to make it come down halfway on my shoulder. So I'm going to go right to this edge here and swing it down to here. Now, this is just going to be for practice, so I'm not going to get too crazy about trying to make this a perfect mirror. So I'll swing this down to there. Not too bad, right? So now I can cut this entire section away. Okay, now on the shoulders, we need to eliminate out this highlighted area. And this one. All right, we're going to take away these 2 highlighted areas next. So I'm going to cut to the bust point, not through it, and then cover this up, tape it down. Do the same thing on this side. And then we're going to do the same thing for this one. So I'm going to cut one side of this opening. Let's do this one. To, but not through the bust point. And then I'm going to close this up like that. And close this one up. All right, now you might be thinking, this looks ridiculous. This is all over the place. Yes, you're right. We need to true it up. So I'm going to come in, true this edge up, and true this edge up. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually tape more paper like in this space and bring it up a little bit further in. But I'm being lazy, so I'm just going to do it this way. So there's my pattern. So this would sew up darts here and darts here. You can almost see that neckline taking shape, right? Now I can use my bodice back sloper, but I'd have to take off just that little bit of amount right in here at the shoulder so that it matches up with this one. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to sew this up off camera and then show you what this looks like when it's done. Now you can see from this mock-up what I mean by shortening your darts before you go into your final. I did not shorten my darts here, hence these pointy boobs. But you can see that the neckline is much more closely fitted to the body. I've cut this a little bit lower than I would probably feel comfortable wearing in public, but you can see how I don't have to deal with any kinds of darts or tucks along the neckline to get it to fit nice and close. You can use this same exact style of alteration for princess seam garments, for garments cut in multiple pieces, as long as you know where the fullest point of the bust is so that you can rotate out the fullness where you've cut your neckline. And that is all I have for you for today. If you liked this video and would like to see more along this series, please give me a like and a comment. In the next video, I will show you how to do fitting below the bust and along the side seams, and then we will explore adjusting cutaway armholes. If you have any questions about anything that I covered in this video, please comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You can also find me on Instagram, where I post a lot of in-progress photos of my current projects, as well as short reels showing you more pattern making techniques like the ones for this dress that I'm wearing today. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.